Now, typically, we see great coaching matchups all the time in college football, almost every weekend. But rarely do we get to see the masterclass that will be on display in two different places at once, like this Saturday, especially when it's on both sides of the ball that are going against each other, offense versus defense, versus offense. First, we get to see the TED Talk and the Red River Shootout between Steve Sarkisian and Brent Venables, obviously with nods to Kyle Flood, the OC at Texas, and Ted Roof, the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma. But from a preparation and adjustment standpoint, the offensive mind of Sark and the defensive mind of Brent Venables is about as good as it gets. Now, this chess match is going to be absolutely delicious for football lovers, as Sark's going to show us all his different alignments, personnel groupings that he's going to mix with deadly route combinations that go against the grain and a bag of runs so deep that Pepto-Bismol would be jealous. Now, facing Venables, exotic pressures, changing fronts, and more disguises than a spy convention, and Ted Roof's got a ton of experience as well. I mean, he's been around the block. There's also going to be some damn good players in this game. All right, this isn't going to be the lopsided affair like it was last year when it was 49-0 Texas. Now, if you love the devil in the details of live football, I challenge you to not just watch the ball during this game. See the ever-moving motions and front changes and all the things that go along with it. It makes the game more fun to watch. Then later, we get to see two old heads going at it in College Station as Professor X, Bobby Petrino, goes up against Magneto, a.k.a. Kevin Steele, in what is going to be an absolute mind-bender of a matchup when the Aggies offense takes the field against the Bama defense. Now, Petrino knows how to out-formation people. He's got an experienced quarterback like Max Johnson, so he's not going to be afraid to reach deep in his vastly experienced bag to help manipulate safeties, and is probably going to pitch backwards for most of the game from a play-calling standpoint. Now, Kevin Steele, he's been in the game longer than the grass on the field, and he's going to have more answers than a 911 operator as he figures out what Petrino's trying to do to him. Now remember, the best play callers call plays to set up plays down the road, and Petrino is notorious for that. So I wonder if Kevin Steele is going to try and force some action early from a pressure standpoint to try and throw him off schedule. Now, all the game planning stuff is great, but that is only half of the recipe. Football, like life, is a game of adjustments, and the best coaches are the ones who can adapt and evolve after halftime. That is where the game is really played. Now, are these play callers going to be patient enough to save some things for the second half, or will they show the whole menu early? Either way, the brain games in these two matchups are going to be worth the price of admission alone. I'm going to bring in my co-host, former Michigan quarterback David Cohn, who's worth the price of admission alone, and brother, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver, who's going to make sure you pay the price of admission.
Oh, you will.
First off, before we get into this, I misspoke yesterday, and I didn't realize it until last night. I said Donovan Green at tight end for Texas A&M instead of Jake Johnson and Max Wright.
Disgusting.
Max Wright. I was like, why would I say that? I was like, why would I say that? And so then I pull up YouTube from where I was looking yesterday, and I had the highlights of the Alabama-Texas A&M 2022 game, and Donovan Green scored a touchdown in that game. So I think I was going back and looking at formationally, even though Petrino's at A&M now, what worked, what didn't last year, because you always look back, even when you have new coordinators at the year before when you have some overlap personnel. So I didn't even realize I said it at the time, but Jake Johnson, and it's funny because he's the one who started the, kind of them pulling away from Auburn, scored the touchdown. His brother, Max, is the quarterback, one of the reasons Max went to A&M. So I did want to correct that. But looking at this coaching matchup, David, I mean, from an experience standpoint, from having an answer for everything, it's like watching Bobby Fischer play some Russian in chess. I forgot their names. Like this is about as good as it gets.
Boris.
Yeah, that's about right. Boris or Borat or whatever.
No, I'm so excited for the matchup on the field. But then also, just from a macro perspective, Steve Sarkisian, several years at Texas now, been able to get the roster and the culture right. Brent Venables, year 2 at Oklahoma, been able to get the defense right a little bit better, right? Got the veteran quarterback in with Dylan Gabriel that he wanted. A couple other macro things here are, I think this is going to be one of the most important iterations of this matchup that we've ever seen. Not only because this is the final year in the Big 12, and both of these schools really want to win the Big 12 championship before they head to the SEC, but also the third time that we'll see both of these teams face off in the Red River Shootout when they're at least 5-0. Saw it in 2002, 2008, and then that 2009 matchup is really the last time I can remember it being like really competitive, where Texas went on to play in the national championship that year. The last decade has pretty much been Oklahoma rolling. So, those are a couple things from just a high-level perspective. But then talking about the game planning and the matchups like you were talking about, I'm interested to see if Oklahoma's secondary can keep up with these elite wide receivers that Texas has. The defense has been playing better for Oklahoma. You saw them give up a couple big plays through the air against Iowa State last week. I went back and watched some of that game. So I'm interested to see that. And then can Oklahoma's front seven do what Alabama was unable to do and get to Quinn Ewers? If you're not going to get to Quinn Ewers and you can't pressure him or get some hurries and sacks, you're in for a long afternoon with the way Quinn Ewers throws the football. And then on the other side, for me, Dylan Gabriel's a gunslinger of the highest order. He's going to be, forcing a lot of throws. Can you make him turn the football over is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and you got Jeff Lebby on Oklahoma's side, who we know comes from the Briles tree, literally. I mean, you look at the family situation they have going. I'm interested to see the pace of this game. I want to lean toward it being more high scoring, just because while Oklahoma has fixed a lot of that defense is totally different than this year than from last year, and we've talked about it multiple times. Oklahoma last year, it seemed to me, did not have the speed on defense to be able to keep teams from hitting explosive plays against them. It was like every time somebody would break into that second level, whether it be in the run game or they had a couple steps in the pass game, Oklahoma couldn't catch them. And on defense, sometimes you're going to give up plays. Like I looked at the Niners this past weekend. I don't think they'd given up a pass play over 25 yards. They did it a couple times against the Cardinals. Eventually, you're going to give up some big plays, but how big are those big plays?
Yeah.
The elite defenses are the ones that are able to take the plays that go for 80 and a touchdown, and all of a sudden they just go for 40. And now that offense has to run 3 to 5 more plays, which gives them more opportunities to screw up, more opportunities to have to kick a field goal when the field shrinks in the red zone, turning those 40-yard gains into 20-yard gains, those 20-yard gains into 12-yard gains, and those 12-yard gains into 5-yard gains. That's the goal of defense, because it's again, whether you're bend and don't break or whatever style of defense you end up being, nobody plans to be a bend but don't break defense. I hate when people say, oh, well, they're a bend but don't break defense. They've really accepted that identity. Nobody's going out there like, guys, let's give up a bunch of yards in between the 20s and just not give up a touchdown. No, you want to go out there and get after people from the jump. But then on the defensive side for Texas as well, this has been where I think Texas has made their biggest jump. We've seen them be really good offensively. Texas, to me, now, in my generation, I think of them as an offensive team.
Yeah.
Right? That front seven, like you mentioned, that has kind of elevated them into having a chance to be elite. They've been kind of in that Lincoln Riley-esque, let's score a lot of points, we're going to give up a lot of points, it's a track meet, we're losing to Kansas 60-58, what's going on? To now, you look at Texas in that front seven, and Tim Brando called them Club Med. Right? They've gone from Club Med to Judge Dredd, and I think that's been the biggest jump for Texas. So I'm interested to see the physicality of this game on the defensive side, but I lean toward it, Blaine, being more high scoring.
I mean, you got
too many good players.
It's obviously not going to be 40-0 like it was last year. Obviously, Brent didn't have the personnel he needed, and I think Oklahoma's defense got a lot better, but I don't think they're good enough yet to stop Texas. Because I think Texas right now, look at Texas offensively.
Complete.
Offensive line, old heads, right? Old heads, just the chemistry between them is basically Bill Nye the Science Guy. It's going on. It's beautiful. Remember, Alabama didn't touch Quinn. He basically had COVID. Alabama didn't get close to him the whole game. And then you go look at the most underrated thing about Texas is their running game, man. Jonathan Brooks is an extremely good back.
He's emerged.
He had 200 plus, and I think that's going to be a big key in this game because I think Oklahoma is extremely good. They're a fast defense. From sideline, they can run. But you go north and south on them, that's where you could be in trouble. And I think Texas deep down wants to run the ball. And if Texas can set up the run early, and now you have Adonai Mitchell, you have Worthy on the outside, now it becomes a problem. So if it's me, and I'm Brent Venables, and he's one of the greatest, and so is Sark when it comes to halftime adjustments, what do you do with Quinn? How do you approach this? Do you see if you can get there with 4? I don't think you can. I think Brent's going to have to do one of his best jobs in mixing fronts, mixing coverages, bringing corners. You have to get Quinn off his spot. That's the only way you're going to win this game, in my opinion, because I still don't think your defense is good enough just to come out here and stop Texas.
Well, Sark is so good at prepping his teams. I wonder if, again, you show pressure, you bail. You show pressure, you bring pressure. You show pressure from one side, you bring it from the other and drop. I just don't know, as well as Sark prepares his quarterbacks, how much you're going to be able to confuse Quinn Ewers. I think that the way that you not stopping Texas, I think, is damn near impossible. I don't know if you're going to be able to stop them throughout the whole game, but the way you slow them down is you got to make them one-dimensional. You got to take away the run. And I think you got to heat him up, man. I think you got to heat him up and just make him make the one-on-one throws, because if you give him time, I'm watching Texas. There may not be a better, and I said this yesterday, anticipatory passer in college football than Quinn Ewers. There is not a coverage, whether it's pre-snap, when he's looking at the safeties, he's looking at the movement, he's looking at the leverage, mid-play adjustments. He knows where to go with the ball. He'll throw the check down. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, right? And when he does make mistakes, he typically makes them where down the field where you can get away with them, right? It's 3rd and 9. We're at our own 40. You took a shot maybe into double coverage, or you tried to sneak one in the safety. They pick it off at the 20. It's like a punt, right? Quinn Ewers doesn't make that detrimental mistake early. So if you try and take away the run game, right, which I know you're going to try and do anyway, but if you take away the run game and you make them one-dimensional, especially in this game when it's looking like they're not going to have their tight end, Jatavian Saunders, which is, again, not that he's blown it out of the water, but that's a security blanket. That's a matchup problem in the red zone. I just feel like you got to force him to be one-dimensional, and then you got to heat him up. You got to heat him up and let him get there, because Sark is going, just like he did against Bama, he's going to do things that go against the grain. He's going to tighten the split. You're like, all right, like when you went over the ping concept. Typically, you tighten the split to create space outside, right? You put guys either outside to go inside or inside to go outside. We always tell guys in the back end, if something is going away, if something's leaving, something's coming back. But he's putting guys on the inside, I mean, to basically run the post-dig concept, your ping concept. So the more you let this thing play out and you let those route combinations develop with as good as this offensive line is, I mean, Quinn's just going to rip your guts out.
The only thing that worries me when it comes to that, if you're going to heat him up, you better be able to tackle in space. Because you go back to the Iowa State game, there was someone heating him up, and that's how the big plays happen. And if you're going to do that against Texas, you better tackle in space, because they have the guys out there. And the one thing that can kill Oklahoma in this game is huge plays. If I'm Oklahoma, I want to die by 1,000 cuts. I'm going to make Quinn hit the check down every single time, because I do think Quinn, he wants the long ball.
At least that gives you a chance in the red zone.
Absolutely.
That gives you a chance in the red zone to force field goals rather than give up big plays. But the over-under line right now is 60.5. I agree with you. I like points in this game. I like the over on that?
I do too, because the thing I worry about, if you're going to sit there and keep everything underneath and have them throw the check down, that's not how Oklahoma wants to operate on offense. That's going to limit Oklahoma's possessions with this new clock rule. Oklahoma wants to go, and they want to wear Texas's defense down with what they do offensively. So are you willing to risk you're limiting the possessions your offense gets to be able to keep everything in front of you? And at the end of the day, Sark in the red zone, that's what to me is the best play caller in football. Because when it comes down to the red zone, his designs, that's when you really find out. Offensive coordinators don't get paid, and you know this, Blaine, we all know this, to move the ball in between the 20s. You get paid to get first downs on third downs, and you get paid to score touchdowns in the red zone when the field shrinks, because that's when it's harder, right? We're going to go over I'm going to go over a huddle-up defensive play in two-man, where Alabama is able to play a really condensed two-man because they're on defense in the red zone. Now I don't have to play a true half because I don't got to cover 30 yards behind me. So the field shrinks, that's when you really find out. It's just that's the yin and yang. That's the decision.
You got to think, I mean, as Sark is so good in the red zone, guess who else is?
Yeah, what
Brent
you're talking
Venables.
about, like, that's fine against the Baylors of the world, too, and really, like, the Oklahoma States of the world, when you can win in a shootout and you want more possessions. But when Texas is over there and they can beat you in a shootout, too, it's like maybe Oklahoma needs to prove they can win by having fewer.
See, that's the beauty of it. That may be the right decision. But, like, again, this is why you're going against what you typically do for the sake of winning the game, which is always an interesting situation, especially with the new clock rule. You guys ever search your name on the internet? I know. Listen, easy. Easy Blaine. You know what happens when you search your name. There's a ton of info out on you with the way information brokers and people work now in the internet age, right? Where when we first started talking to Delete Me, our new sponsor, outside of when I Google my name and like the football stuff comes up, there's like a lot of information. Speaking of getting scouting reports, people can get a scouting report on you very, very quickly. Important information thanks to data brokers. Corporations, they collect huge amounts of personally identifiable information and package it together to create a profile or a listing with your personal info. We can include things like social security numbers. You know what I'm saying? Don't make me call Liam Neeson. Birthdays and info about your relatives, past and recent addresses, and they'll bug the hell out of you. All right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. You live in the real world like we do, but with Delete Me, they can solve your problems. And now you can get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/Crane. That's joindeleteme.com/Crane, CRAIN, and use our promo code Crane, spelled the same, CRAIN. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/Crane. Use that promo code at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/Crane. I'm telling you, y'all just Google it. Yeah. It'll blow your mind. You think I'm messing around? Go Google your name, and you'll be absolutely shocked at what's on there.
How are you guys feeling about the +6 right now? Oklahoma's +6.
Here's the way I feel about it. Do I want to take it? I don't want to go ahead and buy that thing up to 7.5 right now. I want to let it marinate and see if it can go up to 7.5 somewhere. Right now, gun to my head, I'm taking Oklahoma +6.
Me too.
I don't think this is.
I would take Oklahoma with those points. I think it's going to be closer than that. But then another thing to consider, though, is I think Texas has played much better competition.
Yeah, 100%.
When you look at the schedules, I don't know if Oklahoma's played a good football team. SMU's a good football team, I guess you could say, but not. They haven't played as tough of a schedule, obviously, that Texas had.
Yeah, but they have handled business though too.
They have.
I mean, there's something to be said for that. And there is something to be said for, this is your first big time game. Are you going to be too juiced up for it? But speaking about juiced up, I think the over-under's at 60.5.
It is.
What do you think's a better play? You think the over-under at 60.5 to take the over is a better play or take Oklahoma? I'm telling you, I like Oklahoma +6, but why would I jump at this thing now when, if it goes to 5.5, oh well.
It's already got bet down.
If it's going to go anywhere, it's probably going to go back up.
I think it opened at 7.5.
Yeah.
It opened at 7.5?
Sure, yeah.
Wow.
It was at 6.5 last night.
Do you know what the over-under opened at?
I do not. No, I do not. But I think it was, you said it's 60.5 right now?
60.5 right now. If you force me to pick between which one I like the most, I like the over.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like Texas to cover in this game.
You like Texas minus the 6?
Yeah, I just think Texas is a better football team than Oklahoma, and I think they've shown it throughout the year. I think Oklahoma's obviously better, right, especially with that defense. I don't know how you could be worse than what you had last year. But you look at this Texas team, right, what are they bad at? What are they bad at?
They're a complete team, but I mean, I look at Oklahoma, what are they bad at?
I don't think your defense is great.
Why not?
I don't think you're athletic enough to keep up with Texas.
But I thought you said the athletes are a lot better on defense.
Yeah, they are from last year. If you compare to last year,
here's what I'm looking at. All these guys on defense, all offseason and all we have heard about is getting their ass beat 49-0 against Texas. Now embarrassing the defense was last year. Brent Venables is one of the best motivators in college football. I would be shocked if this defense showed up and didn't play well. Now, what does play well against Texas mean? Does that mean give up 30? Does that mean give up 27? I watched Texas left some points out there against Bama, who's got a pretty good defense too. So I'm not saying they're going to come in here and hold Texas to 17 points, but there's something to be said in a rivalry game. Everybody's going to be talking about Quinn, right? Everybody's going to be talking about the wide receiver group and the offensive line and the emerging run game of Texas and, can Texas win the Natty? Not a lot of people are talking about Oklahoma being a legitimate problem down the road. I think that's somewhat of an advantage for Oklahoma and Brent Venables. He has that chip on the shoulder factor. I'm telling you, man, I don't think it'd be crazy to let it marinate and see if this thing goes up to 7 or 7 in the hook and take Oklahoma. If it goes up to +7.5, I think you got to take it.
I don't know if it'll get back up there.
It probably won't. But if you want to play it safer, and that's what you want to do when you're trying to make money, this could very easily be a 34-27 game, which gets you to 61. The question to me is not as much as Oklahoma going to go back up to +7.5 with the hook. Is this 60.5 number going to go up? That's the question to me. I don't know.
I would think so.
Hey, YouTube, thanks for stopping by. Do us a favor. If you haven't, make sure you're subscribed, like this video, turn that notification bell on so you can know when we drop content, because I know that you know that I know you.